I'm Josh Mailman, and I'm a founder of Social Venture Network, and I currently run a fund called Serious Change, which is an all-impact, all the time, domestic and international early stage, primarily early stage investment fund. About 4 years ago, I was approached by the founder of Transfer USA, which is now Fair Trade America, I think, or Fair Trade USA, about a company called Alter Eco. Alter Eco was the U.S. Arm of Alter Eco France. It was a company that had organic, fair trade, carbon neutral, co-op sourced food, primarily in this country, chocolate rice and quinoa, they needed money to grow with. They had money, they spent it, they thought they were going to get a deal done, they couldn't get it done, they were pretty close to being out of business. We invested in them. Renewal then followed us, Renewal 2, and Good Capital, and in the last 4 years their sales have gone from $1.5 million a year to $7.5 million this year. That's what we like to do. I mean, in that situation, we had a company that was already going in many circumstances where in other ventures that we've gone into, we've got earlier stage companies that come from a number of different sources. We've invested in a number of Echoing Green Fellows that were doing for-profit ventures. So that's, we like to play often a lead and a critical role in getting ideas rolling that we think can be real businesses and have real impact in the world. Well, I actually have been involved in this area for a really long time. I went to college in Vermont, and I actually invested in a magazine that Dave Dellinger, who was part of the Chicago 7, had started up in Vermont called 7 Days Magazine. It wasn't a good investment, I inherited some money when I was 21, and I started doing stuff. Actually, around that time, probably in the early 80s, one of the first things I did was give Samuel Kamen a grant, who was running the Natural Organic Farmers Association, to start a yogurt company in New Hampshire. And then I actually invested in that company as well. That company became Stonyfield Farms. By the time SVN was started, I started to know a bunch of these people. I actually had bought ice cream from Ben Cohen when he was operating with Jerry their ice cream parlor out of the gas station in Burlington. They used to go up there sometimes. So, I really have had, and we were the first investors in the Utney Reader in 7th generation. We were close to the folks at the Body Shop from the late 80s on when they first came to America. They were part of this group. I met Ben at the beginning of, probably before SVN even started, Ben Cohen. So, this has really been a extended family that has grown and is continuing to grow, and encompassing fair trade and base of the pyramid stuff. Also through Middlebury I met, and through I went up to Middlebury to give a talk once on kind of social investment and social change stuff, and I met Khalid Kadir, who is a skinny Bengali kid. He's not skinny anymore, that's 20 years ago, probably. And through him, I ended up meeting his brother, Iqbal Kadir, who wanted to go back to Bangladesh. I was already involved in a Russian phone company, which became Global Telesystems, which itself started as a social venture, but ended up being the biggest fiber optic network in Europe. And so we created a new entity called Gano Phone, with the idea being of securing a phone license in Bangladesh, which we then did in a joint venture between us, Grameen Bank, and the Norwegian phone company Telenor. And that then became, a very successful venture, Grameen Phone. So, I've had a chance to be close to a few different companies that grew into, that became big companies. Notably, Grameenphone, GTS, which then collapsed after being bigger than everything. That was the phone business, and Stonyfield Farm. So when you get a chance to be close to some good ones, you want to try to get some more good ones going. So that's kind of Bunker Roy, a humanitarian. Okay. I think I am quite interested in human rights, and I've been involved on the philanthropic side in human rights stuff. I think that it's better for other people to describe you as a humanitarian rather than to describe yourself as one. Well, it depends I think impact investing is basically private investing as opposed to stock market investing. That's how I define impact investing. For-profit investing in non-public, companies. Okay, that's what I would define impact investing as. I don't define it as philanthropy. I don't define it as grants. That's what I'd say. I think the problem is that it's like, it's very hard for people to do individual companies, okay? That's why venture capital funds were created. And but the truth is the reason that venture capital can work is, you're in 20 different deals, and then, half of them don't work, and the ones that do work get your money back. But it takes a long time. Even the good stuff takes a long time. It takes 7 years, 8 years, whatever. And part of the challenge of the early stage investments in the impact space is it takes a long time for the funds to show that they're actually going to work. So that is a conflict with really scaling the space. So from my point of view, in order to really scale the space, you have to come up with you have to look into areas where, whether it's expanding organic farmland or financing solar systems in the developing world that actually can scale, that have current revenue streams attached to them. Because if you don't have that, because that's what, as I think Michael Lewis wrote in one of his books on the Big Short. That basically, it's kind of not the most pleasant expression, but he said basically that the private equity market is like a pimple on the giant butt of the bond market. Okay, but that's a big deal, because the bond market is where all the resources are at in our global system. So we don't need. I love doing early stage deals. I think they're really important, but the truth is, you want to change the system, you really have to say, what is the bond market going to look like? How do we create stuff that is kind of like bonds that can be in the social impact space? And I also would say that, I was at a dinner of Enterprise Foundation the other night. Enterprise Foundation was started by Jim Rouse 30 years ago. Jim Rouse developed Faneuil Hall in Columbia, Maryland, and he was really, he's passed away, but the foundation Enterprise was run by Bart Harvey for the last 25 years. It was a brilliant piece of work. Enterprise Foundation was benefited tremendously by the passage of the Community Reinvestment Act, which basically said that when banks merge, they have to take a percentage of their resources and commit them to local communities. And the point that Stephen DeBerry just made in our session was that they were only focusing on, deposits that people made in banks, not direct deposit, right? So the law hasn't been changed in 30 years. Nobody thought about people doing, direct deposit. So the question is how do we come up with meta solutions? So where can you lever another, $10 billion into the system instead of $100 million, right? Because we're not, scale is important. And I think there are things to do with that money once it would be there. So, well, I think that those kind of meta ideas are really important. I mean, in some way, the fact that, developing world markets about, 5 or 6 years ago was able to raise the first $50 million in commercial micro enterprise, and then 100 million, and then 200 million, and probably by now like a billion or more. It meant that the global financial market finally said, oh, micro enterprise, this is lending at great, really for us, great interest rates in the developing world. We're going to participate in this. We want to do that. And as a result of that, above and beyond the work of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, billions and billions of dollars have gone into, there was no capital in a lot of developing markets. It's really a problem. You can't get loans in a lot of markets. It doesn't matter whether you have a small business, it's growing, whatever. You're just not, we kind of forget that, basically people are paying, incredibly usurious interest rates all over the world, and a lot of people are paying them in America. The whole payday lending world in America. People are paying, and this is affecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of employees, of low-wage workers in this country, where they're taking out a $400 loan. They're taking it out for a month before they get their paycheck, and they're paying, $50 to get. They'll take a $400 loan out, and the paycheck comes in. They get $350 back, and they think that's great because I really needed that $350 early this month. But if you do that every month for 10 months, it's just cost you $500, right? And you paid. You basically ended up paying a 700% interest for the privilege of doing that. That's not fair. It should be illegal, but it's not. So we need solutions to those kinds of problems as well. I think that if you're going to have a call to action, you need products that can scale. Okay, you need stuff where you can say, look, there's $100 million in the space, but we could really deploy a couple of billion, and you need to be able to show that can be done responsibly, and you need I think the products need liquidity because people need to know that they can go in and they can get out and they can get a decent rate of return. For me, one of my learnings from the whole Bernie Madoff scandal was, it wasn't that Bernie Madoff was giving incredible returns to his investors, but he was giving them 10% a year, right? Now, he wasn't giving everybody 10% a year, and he was, of course, a total fraud. But I thought to myself, wow, here's a guy who's a total fraud. There was nothing ethical about it, and he didn't even, his accounting firm was a one-man band in Long Island, and he had $50 billion under management. What if you were actually doing something ethical? Couldn't you, at 7% interest or 6% interest, don't you think you could raise that kind of money over time? Yeah, I think you could. But it can't be 2%, because 2%, it doesn't get enough people excited about. Although we can see Root Capital and RSF Social Finance, have grown and will continue to grow on that basis.
Great. So, year 2013, will it be an important year, as some people have been saying, for impact investing?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't know I'm not sure what will make it, the question is what could make it more important, but it's not because one person is doing something or a foundation is doing something. It's, one would hope that it could be kind of asynchronous finance, right? And those were the kind of solution that Stephen was talking about. If in fact you can move the dial of CRA and make it include direct deposits, that could be huge. So you need the, I think what used to be called it's a mini rudder on the bigger rudder that lets you steer the boat. So, you need that kind of, we need those kinds of moves, that where you get something, you change something, but you get something really big done. He also referred to I just happen to like his ideas. He referred to one of the fees we pay on our telephone bills, which only focuses on landlines, right? Well, the people don't want landlines anymore. So what if you were able to take that money and make low-cost cell phone service available to low-income people in the country, that would be a, that would be a really good thing. So.